In the previous class, we talked about talked till the myth of metals, and today we are dealing with the uh, ideas of the Sophist and Socratic and how they differed from each other. And in this lecture, let us understand about the Sophist and the Socratic view. So, according to the Sophist, money and power is a source of good life. Uh, uh, Basically, let us first understand the term sophist. The sophist term comes from the sophism. What does it mean? Sophism means basically sophism basically comes from the word sophia, and which basically means knowledge. And the sophists were considered to be the first political educationist, and that is that they are the first political teachers. Basically, sophists were considered as the first political educationist or political teachers. And in Athens, basically education was privatized, and that time basically if the education system is privatized, obviously that education will be mostly will be at the privilege of the rich, will be for the privilege of the rich. That means one who will pay the money, obviously they will only get the education, and that was the system prevailing in the Athens, right? So so obviously when a teacher is getting money, like in the present scenario, if you see that the private education system, or you can see the in the modern education system basically. So obviously there are many education institutions where you are supposed to pay high money, and obviously we can see the quality of education. They are mostly teaching something like a person who can earn money, right? They are making they are making the a student a professional basically, right? Like if even in the sixth class also, they are teaching the coding and all, coding to earn money, and there are so many skills they are teaching basically. So basically, thing is that when someone is getting money, so obviously they will teach how to earn that money, right? So similar thing was happening in the Athens also. The first political educationist, uh, those were basically sophists, and they were since they were getting money for teaching to the rich children, rich class children. So obviously they were teaching that the money and power is the source of good life, right? And and they were basically also teaching that how people can come to the power. And according to them, the ruling class should possess the skill of oratory, which means ability to influence the public opinion, right? So what it mean? It means that they're basically political teachers basically, and they were teaching how the ruling class children, if they want to be the political come to the power, then this would get the oratory ability. If you can see in the present time, our Modi government is there, the prime minister, our respected prime minister, he has a good oratory power, and that's why he is having the greater political support, greater followers in the masses in India as well in the world. So that all depends on his oratory. So the sophists also were basically teaching the skill of oratory, which can be used to influence the public opinion, right? Next, we will see the what is the difference between the Sophist and Socratic tradition. So just I have listed it in the points, and you can read here. Like I will just go through this PDF, go through the slide, and you can also read by yourself. So here the Sophists basically they were materialists who will talk about the mostly money and power is the source of good life. But Socratic was the real idealist, and obviously they will prefer money, honesty, honesty over the money, right? Suppose a person is earning money by the corrupt means, obviously he can lead a good life, but from the inner soul, from the inside, he will feel guilty, he will not be happy, right? But if a person is honest, if he has earned the money by the by his hard work, by his caliber, obviously he will be happy, he will be his soul will be at peace. But the person who is earned money by the corrupt means, he will not be at peace from inside. Now, next is that realist. The sophists were the realist. Well, who are the realist? Realist is those people who believes in what is rather than what ought to be. What is means that what is basically means the present scenario. They are not talking the ideal situation, right? For example, if you see the ideal situation of the world is uh, situation of the world is the society should live at the peace and harmony, right? The society should respect each other. But what is happening? We are having the communal violence, we are having the attacks on each of our country by the Russia on the Ukraine. There are so many political chaos is there in all around the world, right? So that is basically what is. But what is that what ought to be? That is what ought to be should be the peace in the world, across the world, right? And what is that idealist view? Idealist basically they should try to, basically focused on the should try to shape what is on what ought to be, right? Suppose if the world is have in suppose in the present scenario, world is at the uh, as it chaos, fighting war is going on. So so like India is seen as a mediator, so it can mediate between the two countries and maintain peace, bring peace in the world. Global power can come into action, and they will work and bring peace. Will bring the mutual understanding between the Ukraine and the Russia, and obviously the global peace can be established. The same work is done by the United Nations as well, right? So idealist view is that if there is something is happening which is not basically what is, should be converted to the, should be bring into the what ought to be, right? Next is that sophists believe that individual is an end, that is part is prior to whole, right? We'll see that when we'll talk about the uh, theory of justice, there we'll see the how the individual is an end or priority is prior to the whole. But for the Socratic, whole is prior to the part. For example, if you see how that he basically establishing, can see the individual is more focused by the sophist, that the teachers sophists were the teachers, and they were teaching the individuals to make money either fair or unfair means, come into power. They are not considering the importance of the whole masses, right? They are teaching the ability skill of the oratory to influence the masses. So they are more interested for a particular person or for individual interest rather than interest of the masses. But for the Socrates, what is that? For the Socrates, man, society is an end, right? That is whole is prior to the part. Even if you see in the Socrates life itself, so you'll find that Socrates has given up his life. He has basically drunk the hemlock for the sake of the society, right? For the sake of society, he maintained his position, he maintained his views, and he stand on it, and obviously he sacrificed his life for the state. That means he sacrificed himself for dissolving the law, right? Next is the society's conventional creation of humans. society is the conventional creation of humans, right? Sophists believe that society is the conventional creation of humans. But Socratic, what is the Socratic view? Socratic view is that man is by nature a social animal. Man is by nature a social animal, that is social society, natural, organic, right? Like we can see, we'll further see in the further classes, like in the Aristotle, we'll talk about it, that how that man is a social animal, and in the conventional sense for the sophist, that the man is society that creates is the conventional creation of humans, right? Or conventional or traditional creation of humans, right? Next is that sophists basically form the basis of contextual theory of state, but Socratic form the basis of organic theory of state. We'll see all these things in the future classes. So for the time being, contextual means what? That the basically the people are coming to contract, they are giving up their rights to the some person, uh, to the giving up their rights to some person, right? Like they are uh, that basically the security to the some interesting security to the some person, right? For example, you can see that a rich person is there, sleeping inside the room, but a watchman is there, right? So similarly the state is there, that will protecting the that will be ensuring the security of the life of the its people. Okay, that is basically contextual theory. We are electing the government making all laws and policies to secure our lives, right? That is the contextual theory. But in the Socratic theory, a state is basically organic theory of the state. Organic means that is existing. Okay, that is organic theory of the state, that is creation of the man itself. Okay, next is the next Socratic view in the sophist. Now, according to Socrates, sophists were not doing justice with their own profession, right? So obviously that we can see that sophists were teaching money and power, oratory skills to their richest students, how to come into the power, how to earn money, right? So all these things were there, and so hence, since the Socratic, that the sophists basically, they are not giving the real knowledge to the students, they are to their students, right? So so Socrates has viewed that sophists were not doing justice with their own profession, right? as a teacher as a teacher, what is the responsibility of a teacher? As a teacher, the responsibility of a teacher is not to tell what one wants to hear, rather what one should hear, right? So according to the Socrates, ruling class need to have real knowledge. What is that real knowledge? It is not enough to know how to come to power. It is also important to understand what is the duty of the ruling class, right? So the most important thing Socrates is focusing on 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 the ruling class is that they should not only know how to come to the power, but they should also know what is the duty of the ruling class, right? So if sophists think that money and power is the source of good life, so they may be ignorant about what constitutes good life, right? So basically, the sophists were materialists. They are teaching money and power as a as an end of a man, even at the cost of the uh, life of the society or the citizens, right? So Socrates basically, he mentioned that the sophists were not doing their justice with their profession. They are not telling the truth. They are not telling the real knowledge to their children, to their student or ruling class, and so it is what is why they are not doing the justice, because they are not telling what is the duty of the ruling class, right? So if sophists think that money and power is source of good life, so they are ignorant. They may be ignorant about what constitutes good life. So for his supporting his view of what constitutes the good life, let's understand he has given the concept of allegory of cave. Now, what is that allegory of cave? In the allegory of cave, basically, uh, allegory of caves. Allegory means what? Allegory means a story of caves. He basically provides a story, and through this story, he explains the difference between the real knowledge and the illusion of knowledge. So, let us move to a figure here. Okay. In this figure, you can notice that that there is a cave, and inside the cave we have four-person tied, and they are basically sitting. You can see they are sitting, and they are tied to the wall from head to the toe. They are tied. They cannot move their neck, and from behind, whenever the person's people are moving with certain objects like horses and birds, a ring, when they are moving, so their shadows is reflected, their shadows formed on the wall of the cave. And there they see the four-person who are tied. They cannot look here and there. Their face is basically facing towards the wall of the cave, and from the outside the shadow of the objects is falling onto that wall. And the people are when the four people tied inside are seeing those objects, so they consider it as a real, right? But in reality, but what happens at one point of time, a person, suppose a person basically he got his chain, uh, he got his chain unchanged unchained unchained, and he move out of the cave. And when he sees go outside, he will see that sunlight is there. So we will get the idea that the reality is different than that of the shadow, right? The reality is something different than the shadow. So, but later, so he runs out of the cave, he enters into the sunlight. Initially, when his voice, right, realize the role, a real idol is more beautiful than the world of illusion. So, here we can see now the sunlight is basically what? Sunlight is the symbol of real knowledge, whereas fire can give real light, cannot give the real light, right? It can give certain light, but it is not giving the real light. And such who person who is has moving out move out, when he comes back and goes back to the inside the cave and explain the reality, other prisoners make fun of him, right? They'll make fun of him, and other prisoners are extremely reluctant to leave their bondage and come in sunlight. For example, you can see in the spiritual life also, uh, when in the spiritual life also we can see that when certain person is talking about the truth through the Bhagavad Gita, so the impure soul, the person who are more hankering about the materialistic thing, they will often try to escape from reading all these things, all these knowledgeable things, right? So similarly here also happening. So when they will mock at you, they will the mock at the saintly persons, right? Similarly here also it happening, that when the person who is knowledge, who got the knowledge from the reality, from the outside object, and telling to the person who are tied inside the cave, so they are feeling what? They are feeling that they are making mockery of that, they are mocking at him, they are making mocking at him, right? So basically the person will push this person forcibly and will also realize the reality. So that person basically who has given out and here who has moved out and come into the cave and acknowledging the the people who are tied the reality, and if they are not going outside, so he will push them out and they will also get to the reality. Similarly, the here the person who is pushing basically is the teacher here, right? So here in overall you can see that the work of the teacher, that is the sophist, is to teach the reality, that is the true knowledge to the children, impart true knowledge to the student, right, or to the ruling class. Now let us talk, when you talk about the allegory of cave, so from here we can also talk about the reality is the shadow of idea. So after this we can stop. Reality is the shadow of idea. That is the statement given by the Plato. So the above statement basically comes from the Plato's theory of ideas, where he explains the nature of reality, and he has basically established that idea is the ultimate reality. Idea is the ultimate reality. And from what is the context of this theory? The context of his theory of idea can be found in this concern with the state of Athens. And according to him, Athens was in bad shape. We can see that Sparta had defeated Athens, and Athens was basically in the declining state. And he also have seen that the rulers were not good. They have they have basically uh, they have basically poisoned his master, and so the Athens was in bad shape, and the ruling class were ignorant. The ruling class were basically materialist. They are running after money and power. They are chaos and corruption all around, right? So they were not knowing, they were basically ignorant about the elements of the happiness happiness, right, the real happiness, right? And so his theory is based on the, so he has propounded the concept of reality is the side of ideas, based on the Socratic theory of knowledge is the virtue, right? Knowledge is the virtue. And so the real knowledge basically is the conceptual and cannot be challenged. So Plato has applied the theory of knowledge to his understanding of reality, and so we have seen that he basically indulges in the we'll see in the further further slides. The nature of reality has been a matter of debate among the scholars. Some believes that the matter is the real. For example, they are called materialist or the sophist. For Plato, the view is that matter is the real is rhetoric, right? For the sophist, believe that matter is real, right? But for the Socratic or Plato, the matter real is the rhetoric, right? It kind of, what is that rhetoric? Rhetoric means that is not sought after, right? Just making a kind of making something which is not real, that you can see now, that if you speak certain lies time and again, so it become truth, right? It will not that real truth, but it will be accepted, in the society. Similarly, it is happening that money and power, money and power, money and power, so everyone will run after money and power. Even if in the present society you can see that that everyone is running after the making big money, big amount of money, having the big houses, having big bungalow, all these things, they think that they will be happy, right? But obviously that is not the truth. But it has been created, the rhetoric has been created that this is the matter is the real, the money and power is the reality, and everyone is running after it, right? So to understand basically to understand the idea, that's Plato basically prescribes or uses the dialectic method, which was basically devised by his or innovated by the is by his guru Socrates, right? So according to Plato, idea is the perfect manifestation and belongs to the world of permanence. So idea, we need to understand the idea, which belongs to the world of permanence, that is world of God, and money and power can bring satisfaction of the physical body, right? But honesty brings satisfaction to our soul. And so, according to him, we take worldly things as a real and worldly pleasure ultimate happiness only because of our ignorance, right? So, one we can find that a person who is earning money by the corrupt means, obviously, though he can satisfy his physical needs, physical pleasure, but obviously he will not be at peace, right? But a person who is earning money with honesty, so he will not have any kind of guilt, and so he can have satisfaction to his soul, so he can be at peace. He may not be that much happy, but still he will be happy, right? He will be satisfied, his soul will be satisfied, right? So to show that the reality is the shadow of idea, he gives allegory of cave. So from here we can see the allegory of cave uh, is is based on basically reality, the shadow of idea. And when we consider the worldly pleasure as ultimate happiness, our position is similar to the prisoners in the cave, right? Prisoners in cave, right? From we can see that how that persons who are tied, they are not knowing the reality, so they are bound to see the shadows and considering it as reality. But when they were pushed out by the fellow prisoner who have come out at a certain point, who has seen that ideas real knowledge, and he when he pushed them out, then they come to know the reality, the real world, the real object, right? Similarly, or real knowledge, similarly, the that when the person is engrossed in the worldly pleasures, so ultimately he will not get that happiness. But when he comes to the real knowledge, when he comes to know what is the real knowledge, what is the reality, so obviously he will be more satisfied, right? So so here, however, when we get the true knowledge, so symbolized by the sunlight, we have seen that in the reality allegory of cave, that when the person get the sunlight or the real knowledge, then only we realize that we consider real was just the illusion of reality. So what we was they were considering the reality as the reality, that was just the shadow of the reality. So, thus the Plato wants to teach the ruling class that the meaning of true happiness, right? From the above discussion, we can see that the Plato just want to teach the ruling class the meaning of true happiness. The real happiness basically constitute in serving the citizens rather than fulfilling one's self-interest, right? So basically, he is more focused on the society, interest of the society, that is whole is prior to the individual. For example, you can also see that when a person is serving to the other person, serving to the few people, right, poor people, so he feel more satisfied, right? But if person who is taking bribes from all the poor person, though he may fulfill his physical needs, but from inside he will not be satisfied. From the soul, he is not satisfied, right? So basically, real happiness basically constitutes the serving the people, serving the citizens, rather than fulfilling own self-interest. So, so basically, considering that money and power is everything, so that is a kind of ignorance. It is a kind of short-sightedness, right? So we should understand. We should assume that if we assume that our interest is different from the interest of the people, that is short-sightedness and ignorance. So we can find remarkable similarity in the view of Plato and ancient thinker like Kautilya. So that kindness, that is basically the thing of reality, that is the reality of ruling class. The basically that handling of money and power is of no use. They should basically have the knowledge that they are supposed to serve the interest of the people, right? So in that scenario, basically, in this context, basically, we can highlight the point of certain similarity between the Kautilya and Plato, where you can see the Kautilya in the Arthashastra has made the statement that in the happiness of the subjects lies the happiness of the king, right? If the praja is happy, so obviously the king is also happy, right? So we can also quote the Pandit Nehru, who has held that who will survive if India dies. So if India is not existing, so what is the use of rulers, right? If the citizens are not there, then what is the use of ruler? So Pandit Nehru also highlighted this one. So the message is what? The message is that if the ruling class will continue to serve their interest at the interest of the people, they will harm their own interest in long term, right? So in the short term, obviously they can get the money, they can get everything, but in the long run, that will not basically solve the interest. That will not basically they will basically harm their own interest, right? Suppose if the king is not serving the people interests, right? So the money will be concentrated to few, development will not happen, people will lose the faith, and obviously they will revolt or something like that. So state will come at collapse, there will be no ruler, right? So in the long run they will harming their own interest as well only, right? So so far today I will stop here. Next, tomorrow we'll talk about the Plato theory of justice and the theory of communism, and we'll talk more. Okay, thank you. You can subscribe our channel for the further updates, for further videos, and we'll trying to complete all our lectures by February. Okay, thank you.